This is why I would never buy gloves used. Look at how beat up my own gloves are. This is crazy. Got holes everywhere, I got tape everywhere. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be using a chain whip as our microphone holder. So today, what I want to talk about is the difference between buying used and new gear. Say for example that recently you just got into a new sport. Say that's mountain biking, right? And you've been riding this old 90s hardtail. You've been having a really good time on your bike, but you are looking for something that is more capable, you feel a little bit better on, that's a little bit more comfortable. Should you buy a new bike or should you buy a used bike? Say for example that you're also getting into biking, like what other kinds of equipment would you buy new versus used? I think we come to this question a lot, especially as outdoor recreationists. So I have reasons why I buy used gear, and I have other reasons why I buy new gear. Reasons I would buy new gear. Biggest reasons are safety, comfort, and for warranty. And that's pretty much it. For example, I would always buy 100% any kind of safety gear brand new, unless I was like borrowing a friend's for a day or something like that. So what do I mean by safety gear? I would buy helmets brand new. Like if I was backcountry skiing, I'd buy Beacon brand new. Really, I mean, it's mostly like helmets. And the reason for that is because I want to know what the helmet's gone through. I want to make sure that the outside of the helmet isn't compromised in its structural integrity. I feel more comfortable knowing what I've put a helmet through versus what somebody else might have put it through. They might say that they have no crashes or whatever, but like if they're just dropping their helmet all the time, like I feel like I wouldn't be comfortable using that kind of equipment or that kind of helmet. In terms of comfort, to me, this is all about contact points with the sport, right? So when I think about buying new gear, I think about buying ski boots, for example, right? I would always, me personally, if you've seen my other video about the Scarpa Maestrals, I have really flat feet, and so I really need like a specialty boot, and I need that custom fitted because it improves my experience like 20-fold. Like I can't ski on other boots, like even rental boots or demo boots. Now, if you are in the position where you're lucky enough to do that, like awesome, go ahead and do that. But for me, contact points, gloves, for example, right? Like I'm not going to buy used biking gloves. I would buy brand new gloves. They're not really that expensive anyway. Yeah, and biking gloves are also kind of like a safety and comfort thing, so that's pretty neat. Now, let's move on to bigger pieces of gear, like a bike, for example. Bikes are really interesting right now in terms of deciding whether you should buy new or used, because post-pandemic, bike prices were really crazy. The industry kind of went through this huge boom and there's a lot of inventory and people ordered a lot of stuff. Now people are kind of letting go of that stuff and the market is pretty saturated in terms of bikes that are out there. So what's really funny is that at least in my area in the Mountain West, people are selling used bikes for as much as you can buy new bikes. And so for me, my decision making is that if I'm going to buy a bike, like if I'm going to put $3,000 or $4,000 down on a bike, I would rather buy a new bike and then also get the warranty that may or may not come with it depending on the manufacturer. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of companies that have really good warranties these days. Sometimes warranties also travel to the next buyer, but that's a completely different situation. In terms of would I buy a used bike? Probably, like depending on my budget. Like if I have like $1,500, right? Like I'm not going to be able to buy a brand new full suspension bike, but I would be able to buy like a pretty decent or like a mid to entry level, a few years back, kind of full suspension mountain bike. Skis, what I've noticed is that skis don't have the same kind of market effects that are going on with biking. I would choose to buy skis probably used most of the time. People turn over their skis pretty often. New skis are never cheaper than used skis. On Facebook Marketplace, I'm able to find pretty good deals on skis. New skis are almost never on sale too, unless they're like the previous year's item and they're in like a bulk package. And for me, like I have a very specific set of bindings that I probably want that are compatible with my boot that I want with like a certain kind of ski. So I probably want to buy all these things separate. So for me, it would be more expensive to buy skis new versus skis used. With used gear, I would say it's usually safe to buy. Let's talk about demo gear. As I was talking to one of my friends about this, I don't know if I would ever really buy a demo bike or demo skis. Reason being is it's kind of like buying a high mileage vehicle from a fleet service. With that, like, you can maybe find like a hidden gem every once in a while. They're gonna be really cheap compared to other places where you might find them, but they're also gonna be really run down. I, again, kind of like with the other things, like, would like to know who's putting them through what. And when you have a demo fleet, like, people are like, it's not their bike, so they're probably riding them really, really hard. And like with all things, the secret to buying used gear is to kind of know your gear. And I'm gonna turn it over to a friend to explain how you can get good at buying used gear. He's a good friend of mine. His name is AJ, and he's a very reliable source. He honestly taught me everything that I know about biking and skiing, and I'm glad that he is helping me out with this video. So thank you, AJ.
Hey everyone, my name is Aaron Wilkie, or my friends call me AJ. But Andrew kind of asked me to do a little bit of a deep dive, or kind of explain how I manage and go about navigating the used gear market, either on Facebook, eBay. We even use Poshmark, but Craigslist too. So this is kind of what I kind of go through. So immediately off, the first thing that you need to do in order to actually navigate is learn. So you need to learn parts, you need to learn how different things work. For example, if you're going to be mountain biking and you're trying to get a good deal on a drivetrain, you need to understand what a drivetrain is. So cassette, you got your derailleur, chain, you've got your cranks, your chain rings, then you can expand that further to looking at wheels. Then you have your wheels that have your free hub body that you put your cassette on. So that's just an example of what you need to understand. And then within those categories of derailleurs, you need to know the different types of derailleurs. So for example, with mountain biking, there's different derailleur types and different associated prices. So SRAM and Shimano. So SRAM makes XX1, X01. They make GX, NX, and SX. And that's kind of their older drivetrain. I guess they've moved on to a new transmission, but that's super expensive and not something you want to go through with right now. So the drivetrains they have each have different price points, and the reason they're priced differently is because of the materials that they source them from. So I think the XX1 is designed for XC mountain biking, so it's lighter, more carbon, shifts a little bit better, is more precise. But all of these derailleurs do pretty much the exact same thing, which is shift your chain so you can have a different gear range. So that's kind of just one example of understanding and knowing the in and outs of the different parts worlds. And the parts that you need to kind of study up on. And as you do this more, you'll be able to recognize different aspects of used parts and see, hey, is this a good price? Is this a good price in the used market? Am I taking into account the demand right now? And you can kind of get a good feel for seeing different posts and seeing if this is a good deal. For example, I've been able and fortunate enough to flip mountain bikes before, and flipping mountain bikes is a ton of fun, but finding them is very difficult. So you have to kind of take into account the entirety of the bike, and figure out which parts are on there. Is this a newer bike? What's the frame material made out of? How many people have owned it? It's kind of like shopping for a car. If you knew everything about the car and looked at it. But if you're going to be spending that amount of money, you need to understand everything and be able to figure out why it's priced that way, and figuring out what the parts are, why the parts are, and how the parts are is a huge aspect of searching and buying on the used gear market. Things you can also do to save money, and once you understand and learn all the different aspects and parts, is you can then take those parts, install them yourself. You can bleed brakes, for example. You can, index your drivetrain so that you have better shifting. All these different aspects are really, really good for, helping out your buddies or just helping yourself out when you're riding so you can enjoy your time better. So that's kind of a snapshot of, navigating the used market. Another thing that I like to do a lot, and this kind of sounds bad, but is finding divorced people. Typically a bad divorce makes good deals. You're going to be looking for people that don't really necessarily know what they have, and that means a good deal for you. So, for example, I bought this vintage Yeti mountain bike for $50 and I flipped it for $1,000. So it's definitely doable. The deals are few and far between, and understanding and learning about different parts will help you navigate and will help you get through all that kind of BS that's all out there. But I hope this helps. Go ahead and give Andrew a follow. Self-Propelled, he's an awesome guy, and I'm sure you enjoy his content. But yeah, one of my best friends, love him much. Thanks, guys.
If you're watching to this point, thank you very much. If you found this video helpful, please drop a like down there. Really helps me out, lets me know that I'm doing things right. If you didn't like it, please comment below and say how I can improve these videos for the future. Subscribe if you would like. Yeah, I guess that's the first time I've ever doing that exit. So that outro, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.